Welcome back, everybody. I'm Ken, and you're watching Ken's Cuts. Thanks so much for stopping in. In today's episode, we've got a lot to get done. It's a balmy 70 degrees overcast here in central New Jersey. Saturday morning, I've got big plans for today. And as our friends up at Willie's Firewood always say, a little bit every day goes a long way. And I just wanted to talk about my week and what I've gotten accomplished and my aspirations for today. So stick around. All right, guys, welcome back. So the last Sunday episode that I put out was a wrap up to the Hoosier Firewood hysteria. And as if many of the YouTubers and Woodhounds have shown, we absolutely crushed it. The weather wasn't great. We processed over 50 cords of wood for the veterans to sell at the campground. And I decided during the week that it was Ken's turn to get something done. I had a fresh load of white oak come in, as you can see here. It's a half a pallet stacked pretty high, so it's a solid 6 of a cord. I had an evening this week where I was able to get out here and run the AXIS and bust through all of this stuff because I'm a little short on white oak and I need to get this stuff dried out as quick as possible. So what I have here closest to me is slab wood that I've taken off the exterior that's holding bark, and I stacked it up in its own pile. It'll be great for fire pit wood, heating wood, etc. They're a little thin, but I'm trying to salvage the heartwood of the white oak. This stack in the front here is all bunk stacked, same kind of condition, a little bit thicker pieces. They're about 2 inches thick, about 5 inches wide, holding bark. The white oak bark is so thin, it's about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 5/16. So I'm not going to try and slab off the bark. So I stack this stuff up, bunk stack it, and then on the far 2/3 of the pallet here is all barkless, 2x2, beautiful stuff. It's still pink underneath because the air has been getting to it during the week. We've had a couple warm days, and it's starting to dry out pretty nice. This is really solid stuff. And as you can see, I'm 5'8", but this thing's about 6 feet tall, and a respectable amount of white oak. So it's all split up, ready to go. Off camera to the right, I've got some fresh apple that just came in off of a tree service job. And that's going to be next on the docket, but it won't be today. I've got some apple and some pear ready to go in case my smoker customers want some fruit wood. Plenty of cherry off camera. And I decided today that I need to get going on the vegetable garden. I'm an avid gardener. My vegetable garden is 16 by 32. It's surrounded by deer fence because we've got a huge herd of deer hanging out here in the back of the development. And if I didn't have a deer fence, they would eat everything. So my big plan today is to fire up the rototiller. I want to talk about that. That was a yard sale find that I'll never find another one of these, but it's an older tiller. It's got a Honda motor on it, and I'll talk about that as soon as I get it out of the shed. And we're going to get the garden roto tilled. I'll show you a few minutes of tilling. I won't bore you with that. And then once that gets roto tilled, I've got to get the lawn mowed, and I'm going to use the bagger. I sit on 9/10 of an acre here, and I've got big plans to get the grass clippings into the vegetable garden that I will use as a top dressing, as a mulch to keep the weeds down, and the nitrogen from the grass clippings will help all of the plants. So this is a little bit of a different episode today, but it's just a day in the life of Ken's Cuts. So let me get the rototiller out, get that fired up, and we'll get right back to you. So stick around. All right, guys, welcome back. We're inside the vegetable compound, as I call it. And I just want to take a minute and talk about my pride and joy. A couple of years ago, I was on my way home from work on a backcountry road, and this bad boy was sitting out along the road with a plywood sign propped against it, and it said, "For sale." So I wheeled around, stopped and talked to the owner. There were horse stables in the back, a small, tiny little cottage for a house. And at the time, I was using a Frontine MTD rototiller that, if anybody knows about a Frontine, when you're trying to cut through fresh soil and your tines are up front, the tiller tends to give you a lot of headaches, a lot of arm aches, shoulder aches, because it bounces trying to break through the soil. So I spot this sucker, and it's what they call a Merry Midtine, Merry. This thing is not new. It used to be a rental piece for a company called HSS, and I wheel around. I walk up the driveway. There's nobody around, and there's stables out back. So I walk up to the barn doors thinking someone's in the stables. There's a beautiful black Peruvian or a Persian. It was huge. He was absolutely huge. So I stood there for a second talking to him, and the owner came out of the house. I guess he thought I was going to steal his horse. Anyway, long story short, I said to him, "Hey, that tiller out front, what are you asking for it?" He goes, "Well, it's my stepson. Someone gave it to him. He's been going to work on it for a couple of years, and as a little project to rebuild it." And I said, "Well, what's wrong with it?" He said, "Well, it doesn't run." He goes, "I was asking $75, and you're the first person to stop, and I need rid of it because it's just in the way." And he's lost interest. He's going off to college. So you know what? Give me $40 and it's yours. Well, I couldn't get the $40 out of my wallet fast enough. And I said, "Listen, I'm not situated to take this thing home right now, but I'll be back." So we wheeled it up next to the house, the farmhouse there. And I went home, grabbed my hitch tray, and went back and got this bad boy. And I'll tell you, it's got a drop tine in the back to set the depth. The wheels come off, and you can set this thing from 3 inches down to about 10 inches in depth. And I absolutely love it. It took me going to Amazon. It's a GX 160, 5.5 horse. And I tried playing with it. The air filter was disgusting. So I put new air filter and filter foam and stuff on it, and decided that I would just buy a new carburetor on Amazon, all in about $30 or $35. Dropped the carburetor on it, adjusted the linkage, and this thing purrs like a kitten. So for $75, I got myself a new to me Merry Midtine. And unfortunately, this vegetable garden's a little bit overgrown. I'm kind of embarrassed. The chickweeds and this purple flowering weed of some kind, I don't even know what it's called, but it has taken over. So I got a little bit of tilling ahead of me today. So I'm going to fire this bad boy up and make a couple passes, and then I'll put you on a time lapse, and we'll bring you back when the tilling's all done. So stick around. Alright guys, so you just heard the machine shut off. The good thing about these Hondas, they got an oil pressure switch. I went to turn, make a 90-degree turn. I hit the railroad tie. The machine dumped onto its side a little bit. The fuel shut and the engine shuts off. So while it's off, I'm just going to take a second and talk about what I've just done. I set it at about 4 inches of depth. I'm going through the weeds and the roots of everything that's there, breaking ground. I'm going to drop the tine down now, make another pass, attempt to turn in all of these nasty weeds, turn them in. It'll be nutrient for the soil. And hopefully one more pass around, possibly 2 passes around to get it to where I want. And then we'll be good to go. So let's drop the tine and we'll put you into a time lapse and we'll get her finished off. Alright guys, hope I didn't bore you too much with that one. I just looked at my phone and it was literally about 40 minutes from start to finish. When I was a teenager and I lived home, we used to have a vegetable garden about that size. And we didn't own a rototiller. And yours truly got to go out in the evenings after school with a long-handled shovel. And I had to turn that sucker by hand, and it would take me like 3 evenings turning that by hand. And then if the sun got on it and the clumps dried out, it was an absolute bear to rake out and bust up. So as I finished high school, I was working at McDonald's for minimum wage. And back then, in the 1980s, you know what minimum wage was. And I was living high on the hog. Bought myself my first Agway / MTD rototiller, and I had it until a few years ago. And then bought a Troy-built pony that was a bag of bolts, and I wanted that one because it's got reverse gears, and I ended up selling it because I couldn't get the engine to run right. So then this thing came along, and I've been happier than happy since I got this one. But I just want to flip you around a quick second and show you something that means the most to me with this machine. So hold on. So my original Agway rototiller was a front tine. The tines were all the way up front. They're a little muddy, obviously. I'm going to have to hit them with a putty knife and a garden hose to knock all that dirt off. But the tines on that one sat forward of the engine. This engine sits right over the tines. And I don't know if you can see it. Let me get inside of here. But the pulley off the engine comes back with a double V-belt to this shiv. And then it's got set screws and a shaft into this gearbox. And that yellow plug is actually the sight port for the oil. And in this gearbox is an actual chain. So there's no slipping, there's no binding. The original Agway had a V-belt from the engine out to the tines, and it would slip and it would stretch and it would break. And it was always just a heartache. But when I found this sucker and saw the way that it was situated with a Honda GX motor on it, I said, oh my gosh. I didn't care that the engine didn't quite run right, but as I said in my intro, for $75, I got this thing running like a top. So, all right, guys, that's about going to do it for this one. As I said before, I hope I didn't bore you. Thanks for sticking all around till the end. In my closing here, I'm actually going to put together a couple snapshots of pictures from the Ken's Kuts Garden of 2024, just to show you the kind of plants that I can grow when the summer sun and the irrigation kicks in and the pollination starts. I'm going to be overwhelmed with vegetables. So I'm going to put a couple snippets here at the end. Hope you enjoy. And until next Sunday, get outside, get cutting, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Sorry for the wind.